Fine. We're going to talk about the electrolytes. Like it's like a Bridgerton type household, right? Imagine the cell is the castle. The cell membrane is the castle wall. This is the cast. All right, we're going to go through the cast, and then we're going to clear the board and talk about some things that the cast does that defines their characters and the effects that they have on the body and what some of the symptoms are for the individuals when they get a little out of control. Okay? The most important element that causes the most things to happen is kind of the Romeo and Juliet effect, where you have the princess who's locked inside the high tower, and most of the time she's just hanging out, resting, sleeping, watching TV, whatever it is that she does. But she really wants some excitement. She really wants something interesting to happen, and she's just kind of waiting for that to happen. She's waiting for the opportunity. And then you've got her horny boyfriend, or possibly multiple boyfriends, a lot of boyfriends. There could be a ridiculous number of boyfriends. He is always down to come over. He's pretty much just hanging out, waiting to come inside. He always brings drinks, but he never stays the night. Now, the rest of the cast is also pretty important because they interact with how often Sodium gets to go see the princess. If you have a princess that can basically have a guy friend come in anytime she wants, then that can lead to dysfunction. Now she's got rave boots, now she's going to Burning Man, now she's experimenting with questionable substances, she's just out of control. But if you have a cell where her boyfriend, she never gets to see her boyfriend, then that causes other problems. Maybe she's cooped up, losing her mind. She's just not really doing anything. She's kind of on the other end of the spectrum where she's like a recluse, and there's bad things that can come from that too. So, in an optimal situation, Sodium gets to go see the princess, the correct amount of times. They get to have like supervised dates or whatever, however you want to think about that. So she's not like she gets to activate, she gets to have a little action occasionally, but also she's not getting too much action because then teen pregnancy happens, etc. But that's not what I'm trying to teach you. So kind of have a supporting cast. So the way that it normally works is that the castle walls pretty much just keep Sodium out. That's what they're mostly designed to do. Sodium, he can't climb a wall on his own. And so he pretty much the gate has to be open. The doors have to be open for Sodium to get inside because he's just hanging out with him. The opposite of that, though, is that potassium is the cat. The cats are always supposed to be inside, but they're trying to get out. And they're cats, so they can climb the walls, they can go out. If a window is left open, the cats can go out. And so the cats are pretty much always escaping, but they really don't want to interact with any of the other cats. So if it weren't for the cats creating distractions, then Sodium would never get inside. But cats, eventually enough of them escape, and the family looks outside, and they're like, "Damn, we've lost all our cats. There's too many cats. We got to open the door and let's go out there and try to collect some of our cats." So the door's open, and everybody goes looking for cats, and Sodium is like, "This is my chance." The doors are open, and so Sodium rushes the gates. He flies inside, and he does his thing. It doesn't take him very long. They get a little bit of action. The cell gets excited because her boyfriend is here, and mom and dad are downstairs, and this is real spicy. So they do their thing, but then it's over, and the family has gone outside and they have collected a bunch of the cats, the potassium, something to that effect. They've collected all of their cats. They started bringing them inside. They come inside. They're like, "Damn, we left the door open. How did Sodium even get in here? What is he doing? Why does he look so ruffled? Let's kick Sodium out." Let's get all the cats back inside. Let's return everything to normal. The drawbridge goes up. Gates are closed. Now you repolarize the membrane. Okay. So when enough cats escape, you have to open the doors. You depolarize the membrane. You hit threshold. The voltage gated sodium channels open. Sodium gets inside. You get an action potential, and then everything resets. They gather the cats. They kick sodium back out. Back. Now you have kind of a supporting cast. They affect the way that sodium, potassium, and princess get to interact. Calcium is kind of like the dad that's doing too much. He's got big muscles. He's got his tap-out shirt on. He's never really in the house. He's not like hanging out in the tower with the princess or anything like that. He's more just like patrolling the walls outside, mowing the yard or something. He's just hanging around the walls. He doesn't really want to be in the house, and he doesn't want to necessarily go anywhere else either. He's just chilling. But the thing is when he's out on patrol, he kind of blocks a lot of the gates. He changes the way that the gate detects the voltage, the voltage gated sodium channels. He interacts with those and basically pushes the cell further away from threshold. It hyperpolarizes the cell when calcium is hanging around. And so it makes the house a lot, or the gates a lot less likely to open. Basically, like the family's looking outside and they're like, damn, there's a lot of cats out there, right? But dad's out there, so dad's on it. Dad's clearly not doing anything. But they see the dad is kind of supervising the cats, and so they're not worried about as many cats, like a whole lot more cats have to get out before they're going to open the doors and go check things out because they think dad is on the case. So that's what calcium is doing. He's just kind of patrolling, and he makes it a lot harder for sodium to get in. It takes a lot more cats to create a distraction for the sodium and the princess to get together. Magnesium, or Agnes, this is the chronically calm mom. I wrote here, she's a better door than a window. Magnesium doesn't directly do anything, but magnesium has a big effect on calcium because what calcium does is calcium has his own doors. He's got like a man cave or something like that. He's got his man cave doors in the cell wall, and he kind of comes and goes using his own doors. And Agnes, magnesium, is really good at getting into the doorway, but she doesn't come through it. She just gets stuck in the door. She rolls in, and maybe she's pregnant or something like that, and she hooks up to the door, but she doesn't come through. And so when calcium is trying to go through, he gets blocked. So magnesium is basically the counter to the effects of calcium. So all the effects that calcium has, magnesium basically regulates that and kind of calms him down. Like he's got too much testosterone, and magnesium is just way too reasonable. So whenever you have an adequate amount or too much magnesium, she blocks the doors. If you don't have enough magnesium, then calcium basically just gets out of control. Calcium it's like being a single dad. He just has nobody to hold him back and kind of dampen some of his crazy dad instincts. Okay, so that's what magnesium is doing. But calcium, he's not very loyal. He's kind of got two women. He's got his positive woman who has the most positive effects, but he's also got his mistress, phosphorus. Okay, your bones are basically made out of calcium and phosphorus. This Bridges describes them as hating each other, which is kind of true, and it's good to think of them that way, in that when one goes up, the other goes down. But in reality, they don't hate each other. They actually like each other too much. So when phosphorus is hanging around, calcium kind of becomes an absent father. Because instead of doing the thing that he's supposed to be doing, hanging around the walls and keeping sodium out, instead, he goes off and he's hooking up with phosphorus. They like to bone. Okay? But phosphorus is the number one cause of absent fathers because as phosphorus becomes more on the scene, and she's her other boyfriends are off on vacation or on deployment or something like that, she's hanging around a little more, which means calcium is not. Calcium is gone. So this is how you get kidney stones when you have too much calcium or too much phosphorus, but also it's how you make bones, etc. So calcium is being an acid father, there's nobody guarding the walls, and so the the reaction to cats escaping is much earlier. You get you get hypersensitive on the membrane as soon as a few cats escape. The whole family is like, "Crap, Dad's not around to watch the cats, so we got to go get the cats." So it takes less potassium leaving the cell to hit threshold to open the gates to bring sodium in.